All right, I've started the recording and I'm going to call our regular meeting of the Harlem Township Zoning Commission to order. It's 7:30 and I'll call the roll. Tom Need.
Here.
Virginia Lewis.
Here.
Brittany Hopper.
Here.
Jody Manson.
Here.
Mike Cadler here. And we have two people present that are connected with the township. I'm turning the computer around so you can see. Mike Cannon, our Director of Zoning, and Jim Steele Smith, a member of the Township Strategic Planning Committee. And then we have two members of the public present. Mr. is here for his zoning hearing, which will start later, and then another gentleman there in the back. Could you please state your name for us? And in fact, I don't have the sign-in sheet tonight.
I'll jot it down.
Okay, could you state your name and your address, please?
11479.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sutliff. Okay. Moving forward, we're in the regular meeting at 7:45. We will recess at that time for the zoning hearing, or at least close to that time for Mr. Clark, and begin that at that point in time. At this point, we do have an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions, but it's a limited time simply because of where we are in the agenda. But we put that in so that if people show up and they have a question, like you, Mr. Sutliff, if you have a question that you may be able to quickly answer, that's why we want to do it up front. So do you have any questions?
I don't have any.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll go ahead and move forward. It will be the opportunity to receive any new applications. And we do have one that we were expecting. It would be coming from the Strategic Planning Committee. And we had copies of that run off, which is in your stack of materials that you have. And there's not a formal application, but here's a copy of the email submitted to me by Mr. Need on behalf of the Strategic Planning Committee, submitting this and requesting that the Zoning Commission receive this recommendation and accept it as an application for changing the township zoning resolution. So with that, I'm going to ask Tom if you have anything that you'd like to summarize at this point.
No.
No. All right. That was quick. So what you have is Article 35. It's the new overlay district that the Strategic Planning Committee has been working on for a few weeks. I don't remember now exactly when you started on, but it's maybe been a couple of months.
Well, we're on draft 3.
On draft 3, okay. But draft 3 is one that has now been submitted to us for consideration.
Correct.
And it would be Article 35 as it's submitted, County Line Road Overlay District. And if we receive that application tonight, it would be received as HTZC 2307. Okay, receiving it, we don't have any discussion on it tonight, but we do need to determine the hearing date. So let's set the hearing date. We had discussed the hearing date, basically. What was the date that we had?
The last Monday.
August 28th.
28th, yeah, 3 weeks from today.
7:30.
Since it's a special meeting to deal primarily with the hearing, let's set the hearing time for 7:35. And we will have, open the regular meeting at 7:30.
He's not available.
You're not available?
I think when we went through this, we went through several.
We
Did
did.
we? Yeah.
And 7:35 for the hearing. And for this one, we should be back at the township building on State Route 605.
I would like to ask the strategic planning committee members who are here, if you have made any attempt to notify the residences that are going to be in this new district, because this is a substantial change from the 10 meetings we had telling them what to expect in that area before.
The things that are different, which is the northmost part of the area of the 37, the majority of those properties. Maybe a few that we didn't get to. There's a lot of large farm parcels, especially in the north. Montgomery. They've all been involved in discussions. One of our members actually lives on Lewis Road, and she was talking, and she made her point that she was going to discuss this with you. And if they had a problem, they would get back to us. And the funny thing about that situation, that we got included on Lewis Road, and they requested that we put into it. They want to be about the cases to change. So we're pretty confident. I can't say we talk with everyone. Probably 99%.
I would suggest that we consider having a booth at Hardin Township Day and explaining this to people who stop by. Because it is such a big change. I don't know, maybe they can bunk in with you, Civic Association.
If they want to, I can't speak for the Civic Association, but it'd be an inquiry that could be made.
Yeah,
Certainly.
my communications committee, I mean, there's nobody on it.
I'm sorry, I was trying to make
Do
an
we have
adjustment.
anybody from strategic on?
No, the only person that's on Zoom at the moment is Bob Singer.
Oh.
What happened?
Still blue.
Now nobody's on Zoom.
Kicked him off. But I can talk to Molly and Steve and see if they can reach out. Like I said, that area is the only.
That's the orange part.
No, it would be the green.
This other part.
Mhm. Everything else pretty much follows the mixed use coming from the south.
Just because
No, we're gonna have, well, extreme pressure. Yeah, we don't know which way the sewage channel is going. Okay, south, south,
Don't tell.
But your changes are only after sewer are available?
The whole thing is following the original mixed use 25 acres or more. And we did put in some industrial overlay on the northern section because of Job 37. And county line is going to be a major tributary going into the Intel area.
Excuse me, could you hold for a second? I want to check now with Mr. Singer and see, because he's the only one that appears to be there. Make sure that it's still working. Because we got a screen that popped up and said I had been disconnected. Bob, are you still there?
I'm still here.
All right, it's still working. I don't know why I got a screen pop up and tell me that I had been disconnected.
Maybe like Jim could speak into a microphone or.
We don't have one, but I'll get this thing closer to him. I'll turn it this
Thank
way. If that works. Now try talking again, Jim.
Can you hear me, Bob?
Now I can. Thanks.
Anyway, like I was explaining, Route 37 and County Line is going to be a major thoroughfare going into the Intel, Amazon, Microsoft, all those big hubs that they're putting over there. Also, we had already started writing this, and as you probably know, they've even designated 37 and Center Village Road and County Line for outlets. So also,
Get in mind.
yeah, we're just gonna have, I think there's gonna be what, 4 roundabouts on County Line, that's how big it's gonna be. So, anyway, we would rather have the tax dollars in owners who own the property with the township as to trying to control it. And we would rather have it on our side of the road where the township gets some benefit than to look right across the street from County Road, see it over Lincoln County. Or we have something we don't want. So if we can control this and so far the industries that we have talked with are being very cordial and forthcoming. So nobody from that, but a lot of inquiries and a lot of stuff. So that's why, yes, that was a surprise moment. You know, started getting into it, saw that, and Mike was helping with phone calls, fielding it.
As long as people who live there in the section are aware, and they're not still thinking things are the same as they were at those 10 different meetings that.
Yeah, like I said, the only thing different is everything else is, and those overlays are the same as the original overlay along Fancher and coming up the southern part.
Yeah, but they didn't go up very far. That southern
No.
part of Banshee.
So the new ones kind of are the same basic overlay coming up
Yeah, but
until you
they were
hit,
told something different.
until you hit that.
Yeah. These
There-
people were told something different.
A year ago, what she's referring to.
Right.
Which I just want to make sure you're understanding. That's why she's bringing it up.
Right, and we don't have a problem with it, you know. Maybe we can't make the Harlem Days, but maybe I can talk with our communications department and go over. There's not that many properties over there that we can go to them.
It looks like an awful lot of properties in those different color areas.
Well, that yellowish, orangish thing, that's the same overlay. Same zoning as what's south. In other words, it's the same, it's going to be the same wording.
But all this wording is going to be far different from 10 months ago or whatever.
Not from the one we just did on Fancher Road. That's almost identical.
I don't care what it is, if it's like Fancher Road. I care that these people were told that they were going to be in this mostly rural area.
So over here.
Okay. They need to know that it's something different.
That's why I said I'll talk to communications. Most everything in here is, you know, included.
It is possible, if you want to do it, to identify, you know, the addresses that are on the
Right.
roads here. And send some kind of a notice.
Yeah.
Out, maybe not to everybody, but
Or
you
maybe, like I said, even with all. of
get
that-
most of them, then they're gonna talk to their neighbors, so that would be one way.
And there is, but we do have probably close to 450 or 500 email addresses. in the township.
Yeah.
And we select them by,
Right, I'll talk with.
By street,
I'll talk to Molly.
hit these areas.
it was,
I mean, you know, there, like I said, there may be a few, which, you know, I understand what you're saying.
I think it'll come as a shock to them. That it's so different from,
Well, so far, everybody that showed up and hadn't been shocked was, word travels fast. And, you know,
Well, that part's important in terms of trying to get the word out, for sure. Well, it is now 7:46, so we will recess our regular meeting so that we can, well, let's make sure that we had an agreement on the date and time. I think we did.
August 28th at 7:30.
28th at 7:35. For the hearing on HTCC 2307. Which is the proposal from strategic planning. To adopt or make a part of our zoning resolution, section 35.01, county line road overlay district. So we as a zoning commission would be receiving it and scheduling our hearing. To move the process forward. And that will be posted in the Delaware Gazette and of course on the township website. Okay, with that now, let's recess our regular meeting and open the hearing on HTCC 2306, which is an application for rezoning submitted to us by James and Deborah Clark. With that, I'll call a roll for members for the hearing. Tom Need,
here,
Virginia Lewis.
Here.
Brittany Hopper. Joni Manson.
Here.
Mike Kaplan here. Okay, our hearing is now open. Before we move forward, let me just briefly say that for those of you who are present, if you want to comment or ask a question about the hearing, there will be an opportunity for public comment and questions about this particular application. Online, we only have one member of the public present, Mr. Singer, so that if you have any questions at any time, unmute yourself and bring yourself to our attention so that you can ask a question that you may have. We would ask that anyone who does choose to speak, be sure to be curious of other individuals and do not speak over them. As members of the public, hold your questions until such time as we open the public portion of the hearing. We will move the process forward with the zoning commission giving consideration to the hearing, and there are some procedural steps that we go through here initially. First of all, I'll ask our zoning director, is the application on the correct form? Yes, it is. And has the applicant or agent signed the request for the rezoning? Both Mr. Clark and Mrs. Clark have signed. And the specific zoning request, Mr. Cannon, would you state that, please?
Any specific thing?
Yeah, what is the, well, I can read it from the
Yeah,
office.
she
You
gave
don't
me
have
the
one in
back.
front of you. The zoning request is to change current zoning AR1 residential use to proposed zoning FR1 farm residential and residential use again. Total acreage listed on the application is 4.774. And all 4.774 is requested to be rezoned. as stated on the application. Was the correct legal description furnished in text and map form? Do they reinforce each other? Members of the zoning committee, have you reviewed that?
Are you wanting me to read the public notice before we go through all of this? We missed that portion.
Yeah, we should read the posting of that was in the Delaware Gazette. I don't know how I missed that, but it's on my checklist and I didn't see it.
Would you like me to do that now?
But you could go ahead and do that now.
Okay, public notice. The Harlem Township Zoning Commission is being asked to consider the following. James R. Clark and Deborah A. Clark, 11661 Woodtown Road, Galena, Ohio, 43021, are seeking to rezone 4.774 acres from current zoning AR1 agricultural residential to proposed zoning FR1 single family residential located at 11661 Woodtown Road, Galena, Ohio, 43021, parcel ID 3162001081000. The hearing will be held Monday, August 7th, 2023 at 7:45 at the Harlem Township Grange Hall, 12900 Center Village Road, Ohio, 43021. Information was available in the office and via Zoom.
All right, thank you. And that information was posted in the Delaware Gazette and also posted on the township website. And it's in the cabinet by the back door. We don't post things up on the door anymore.
Okay.
They're inside the cabinet. But it's right there in that document. And we have a couple more people who have arrived, that members of the public, and we would like to ask you, if you would please, to state your name and your address so that we can have that as part of our record of public participation. So, ma'am, would you go first? Thank you. And you, sir.
Chris Eisinger, 2499 Ashcroft Loop in Blackwood.
All right, thank you. And we will now continue to move forward with the hearing. Thank you, Virginia, for pointing out that I skipped that reading of the publication. It was first on my checklist and I read.
Eisinger T Y S I N G.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Mike, are we still on the legal description on the text and map thing?
Yeah, we're down to that point. So now we'll go back to that. Yes.
Okay, I do have some questions. The survey seems to be from the 1960s, and it consistently references 5.036 acres as the property.
Yes. And I noticed that as well. So, Mr. Clark, what is the discrepancy in terms of the acreage? Is the 5.036 the gross acreage of the property?
Yes, and 4.77 with easements, I assume. I've always wanted that question answered myself.
That is the 4.77 you determined to be the net acreage?
Or you didn't determine it? Who did? You don't know.
You can go to the township and look on the map, and that's what it says. I don't know who determined that. but
I don't think it's I think the 4.774 is on the order website as the gross acreage. But somewhere between 1994, or whatever survey was done, and whenever the order to pick up the acreage. Which one?
I'm a little disturbed by it using a 1960s survey. But
It's
I
2002.
disagree. Well, one of them is the text isn't though. The text that goes with it is, and all I have is the deed description for the text. I don't have a surveyor's description. Do you?
No, the only description is the description from the deed.
Which is the 60s.
Right.
You see this, right?
It's on
And the deed specifies that the acreage is 0.0300 acres in lot 7 and 5.006 acres in lot 8. So there, that matches the total of 5.06.
The above tract of land was surveyed by Henry L. Coombs, registered surveyor in October 1967. It's on the deed legal
Yeah,
description.
it's very, I don't know that that's the date of this survey. I think that's simply a reference to an earlier survey.
Well, it's the only text we have for the legal description.
I was told not to have it surveyed until I had the zoning correct. That's one of the things that I've been going back and forth about.
See, the surveyor's stamp on the map is half cut off. It says Albert J, which is not that survey.
Well, the other one is, yeah, you're right, it's like a 2002.
Yeah.
Survey, but we have to
The
match the
legal
map with the legal description, and it doesn't.
Well,
Well, the
In
legal
my view, it
description.
doesn't.
the numbers on this survey match what is, I guess, in the deed, but there's no surveyor description other than what's in the deed.
Right.
You have another survey of some kind? Sir?
Oh,
I mean, you have this survey.
That's all I have.
By and Chicago Title Company.
When I bought the house.
So the parcel exists. And why is the acreage so different?
I don't consider it matching.
Yeah,
Was it sod road in the first survey? They have to take acreage.
Brookview is in there and Woodtown is in there. Is there another road that,
Is that measured from the center of Brookview, to the center of Woodtown, because I'm on the corner. The property that mirrors mine is Mr. Sethlis, and that was owned by,
Keith, on the-
yeah, and he split his. And it's mirrored, it's exactly the same.
but not quite, because if you look at the overhead map, the order of the west. They extended the right of way, but they extended it to the west, they made it wider to the west on Keith's property, not on. And see just a little stub coming out on the road, a very narrow stub, probably the original right of way. Then the road gets twice as wide. So I thought originally it was, they'd taken some of the farm, but I don't think it's. And if they did, they should be right. That extended right.
how long have you owned the property?
In my 21st year.
So you were there when the road was, the Brookview Drive was improved, as Mr. Dean was just describing?
I don't know anything about Brookview being improved. That was done before me with the residents that lived in the Brookview Estates or whatever back there.
Yeah, I think there was a problem with drainage.
I had a ditch petition. for my property.
Yeah.
But that's right. The county ditch petition.
I don't know, but the problem that we're having is with the discussion is the fact that the numbers are disparate, they don't match. So are we talking about,
Can I ask, who gave you the advice to have the survey done after you got zoning changed?
Surveyor herself. Scioto land survey. I forget what her name is. Look it up.
Oh, guaranteed.
Yeah. Yeah, she said that it's zoned for, it's zoned AR, needs to be FR. Said I'd be wasting my money until I got it.
She has, for others, she has basically done a survey that included a second, split in the past for other people.
She did the survey for Dixon. Family. 605. Which was before the.
Right.
I feel sort of stuck, because I agree with you that the descriptions don't match. But I also don't want to say to Mr. Clark, well, you should have ignored her advice, because in his mind, how's he to know that her advice trumps our advice or vice versa, you know?
Well, it's on this list of things that we have to, our checklist kind of thing.
Yes, no, I do understand.
I thought what I gave was accurate.
I understand why you would think that, simply because what's on the deed, the numbers. Everything that's in the script, in that description matches the survey. That's where he's getting it, I think.
Yes.
Am I putting words in your mouth, Mr. Clark?
No, I see how it could be, can't be wrong, whatever it is.
But it is different.
They're not a match.
They do not match.
How did it change?
Well, and without a second survey, I don't know how we are supposed to have an answer for that. So I think we need a more recent survey.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to point out and discuss here tonight? It's not, if you can point toward clarification, yes.
But otherwise, it's not public discussion.
It's not public discussion.
Okay. I was just trying to. I'm thinking that with that survey we did with Chicago Title, there's supposed to be a current description with that. And maybe you might have it somewhere, but have it filed with the Chicago Title. I've never seen one come out of there. I used to use them all the time without description. You understand what I'm saying?
I do. And
So-
But we
We
don't
don't
have.
have it.
But we don't have it here. Saying there's maybe one available.
There's a seal on here from the surveyor, but I don't know what date it was on here. Did you see the date on here?
It's like here.
Oh, that, I can't read
It's
it.
kind of squiggly. It might be-
11/14.
Yeah, it might be
22?
2002. It's not 22, I think.
It looks like, oh,
It's like 02.
Now, did they actually come out and do a survey of the property?
Is it-
Or did they just use,
the existing survey.
yeah, the GIS? Cause what's very, and I was thinking that the 4.774 ended up, I didn't check the auditor's website, but Tom obviously did. He says that's what the auditor shows as being the acreage.
The only reason I wrote 5.036 is because it shows it on.
Well, we can recess the hearing and provide him the opportunity to do some follow-up and then come back for a time and date certain. Do you want to make a motion to reject it?
This one's on Joni, I did the last. That's another option. If we can reject it, because it does not meet the standards that we had set. But I need a motion to that effect.
Did you come in and talk to Mike before you completed this?
Yes.
You told me, didn't you, survey?
I didn't tell him.
Okay, you just heard that from the surveyor.
I think if he had said, I had this issue with what you guys are saying, and I told him, you didn't need it, I said that.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
You know, I think with what I presented, we thought that was sufficient. Because I didn't know which avenue to take when I was starting this. I got a perk test first. Okay, so then I went to the health department, well, you need a survey, and then I called the surveyor, no, you need to have it zoned correctly first. So I thought that would be sufficient, so I could get a survey. And that would be the next.
Yeah, she's advising you regarding the, you know, getting the property surveyed to create your two lots. And what's the best way to do that? But at this point, we're not interested in knowing it specifically. The boundaries of the individual lots that you will create in the future. That's in the future. What we're looking at is trying to determine the boundaries of the existing parcel as it is. And obviously there's some confusion here and at the auditor's office. What happened to more than a fourth of an acre, or about a fourth of an acre, has disappeared from what the original deed showed and what the survey that you brought to us showed.
That's been a question of mine.
And if they've been taxed, but if they're taxing based upon 4.774 apparently,
Yeah.
then why is that number reduced from what you're, and if it's because the property is now no longer yours, but belongs to the county, then the survey isn't accurate.
I mean, I ran the number, if you multiply the frontage 435 times the side 410, it's a perfect rectangle. You do the math and it comes out to 5.036 acres. So the dimensions on the survey match the overall acreage. That's not what the county's. And I personally don't know if there was a right of way extended that ate into it, something. But it's not for us to tell you.
But
It's
when
like
I
a
first
survey,
moved
it's like
here-
a survey.
When I first moved here, I came to zoning meetings to see what, or to a trustee meeting, and I noticed on the wall, it's a map. It said 4.77 back in 2002, 2003.
They pull that number from the auditor's office, is where they get
Okay,
that.
so that's all I know. That's not my field of expertise at all.
Yeah. I understand. And but I do know that, because I had recently had contact with the auditor's office and regional planning. Regional planning creates that map for us, and regional planning gets the acreage information from the auditor's office.
So what do I have to do? What information do I need? Who do I go to?
I think at this point, the best advice that I think I could give would be that you should go ahead and get the survey complete and bring it back with a recent survey.
And for your own personal interest, I would maybe ask the surveyor to put a hypothetical split in there for you anyway. Give us the, have a two-part survey where we get the whole acreage, and then if you're gonna split, have the surveyor do that at the same time if you're going to want that. We don't need that, we just need the whole parcel.
But it's important to know that the gross acreage on the survey is not what we look at the net acreage.
And
she's
you
got it.
are
She's got it
required
here.
to submit the net acreage calculation.
And that wasn't submitted this time around. That's why I was asking,
Okay.
and we got clarification that the 4.774 is not the net acre.
So, you've got a road right of way, you've got a gas line easement, you've got a water easement that are shown, written in on here, you've got some kind of ditch petition. All of that's got to be shown on the survey and netted out what your actual net acreage is, because that's what we determine.
Okay.
Not gross.
Survey
and it shows the same as the old survey. But the auditor's website still shows 4.77. So the surveyor does that.
Take the
Right.
survey out.
If the surveyor simply just looked at the GIS and didn't go out and do an actual survey. But as Tom said, if they use the same points in the deed, they're gonna come up with the same acreage. So there's a discrepancy here that should be clarified. What, how and why it's there. Maybe the folks in the auditor's office or the engineer's office, somebody should be able to help you with this
Probably the
clarification.
engineer, because you're on two roads. And if you look on the map on the ordinance website, pull up your parcel and click on map, it'll come up, and then you can see that on Woodtown Road, there's a special road right of way which runs probably like a third of the way across your property. To the east, toward the middle, not even the entire, not even to the center. And on the west side of your property, Brookview, there's another road right that's been stated. You can see that very clearly on the ordinance website. On the map.
You need net acreage for the whole.
We need, I need, yes, we need to see net acreage for your entire.
Not the individual parcels that you're going to create. Or the parcel as it currently exists.
Did you find this checklist on the website as you were going through?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, make sure when you're sitting down with your surveyor, that you go through and have all of these things, because it's got what we need for the survey, and it has that net acreage on there, which the surveyor may potentially be able to help you find some answers to. So have that with you, and hopefully that will give you a good base to go off of.
And the map itself should be keyed to your list of property owners.
Yeah, you've got the map apparently, but I don't know for sure. I'm assuming, did you number them? You did.
Website and
Uh,
figured them out.
But
What are they,
The-
in a specific order?
No, they just
No.
have to be numbered, so
they
that
just have to match,
this
they
list
have
on
to
your
match the
application,
list.
we can look at this and say, okay, number one is this one right here, number two is this one right here. They just need to be labeled up.
I don't have my cheat sheet.
The checklist.
No, we'll make a motion.
I've never done. I always-
What motion do you want to make?
I'm gonna recommend either side because that's what it says.
Oh, so you want to move it forward?
Do we want to hear from?
Well, here's,
Do we want to hear from?
that's the one that was. Or you can go through the process and
We wanna-
identify what the elements of concern are.
And do we want to
And we can,
hear any
well,
of these other people who came to this hearing? That this is
now there, we haven't opened it to the public
Okay.
portion here. We can do that at this point. Opening the hearing to the public. Does anyone member of the public have a question or a comment related to this zoning request? There are none. Oh, yes.
Change the zoning to have smaller acreage.
Yeah.
You have a bill.
To change, if you're changing.
So what is the 4.77? That give you
The minimum lot size required is 2 acres. Now, for the amount of frontage that he has.
Without sewer, without sewer. Because we say consistently, it's 2 acres, it's 2 acres, it's 2 acres. That
But
changes
I
when
don't think
sewer
that's
comes
his
into
question.
town. I understand, but the public needs to be aware that that changes when sewer's coming.
And it's net.
But the
acres.
minimum, and it's 2 net acres. That's why, in terms of, that's for Mr. Clark, as he moves forward, he needs to make sure that the 2 lots that he would create, will each have 2 net acres in order to get a zoning permit from Mr. Cannon. Because if they can't meet the requirements for the 2 acre side, but that, we don't determine that in terms of moving the zoning. We're going to be looking at Does it meet the minimum requirements in terms of, the FR1 zoning? And the FR1 zoning, lot size and frontage are the two critical components. Let me find that, so. The frontage.
I think it's 0.75.
There it is. Well, that's- So he's gonna be over 4 acres. He has to have at least 250-foot frontage, which he will. He does.
But if he's splitting, he needs to,
Well, if he splits it, it goes down to 2 acres. But less than 3, he needs 175, which is for each of the 2 lots.
Say that again, please.
To get the zoning change, you're 5 acre, well, 4.74 acres. You need to have at least 250 feet of frontage, and you do. For us to approve the zoning, because we won't create a non-conforming lot. Right now, this 5 acre lot probably doesn't meet zoning requirements. It's probably a non-conforming lot.
Yep.
It appears to be.
I-
We don't know that for a
we don't
fact.
know.
No, but certainly at 5.6, it's enough.
Yeah, well, that's what reason I say that, Tom, you're right. But,
You have enough frontage with 535 feet for a 5 acre. You go down to a 2 acre lot, you need
175.
175 feet on each parcel.
That
And
makes sense to you now?
you should have that.
So you're on a corner, so you've got a lot of frontage.
50 feet more or less.
So your 2 lots, one lot can face one way, one lot potentially can face the other, but I don't know how it'll work. That's for your surveyor to make the determination, what's the best configuration.
Yeah, right.
But it's not relevant for us. It would make it hard.
Okay.
And it's got 4.
All right. Then let's have there, oh, question.
So this is just for the future, when sewer moves into the township, people can have smaller lots than the 2 net acres. Right now, there isn't sewer in the township, so 2 net acres is where we stop, but once sewer comes in, they can go down to 1 acre. Correct?
Where what's happening.
Yeah. So I don't want to keep saying to the public, 2 acres is our minimum, 2 acres is our minimum, and then have them be
2
like.
acres is the minimum for FR1, and that's what he is asking
Yes,
for.
I understand,
Don't confuse them.
when sewer comes in, if you choose to ask for something other than FR1, you can have different lot sizes, so I know people have come back to us in the past and said, you said this was our minimum, you said this was our minimum. For this, yes, for other zoning, no, but that other zoning requires.
What she's referring to, and I hope this doesn't confuse you even more, is the R1 district in the township currently will allow a lot of a minimum of 1 acre. And that 1 acre lot has to be in an area where there is central sewer provided. There's no place in the township currently that meets that requirement. So for the future, potentially, if the zoning doesn't get changed, that zoning does exist currently and it's on the books. But we also have other zoning with the overlay districts that have been created that will allow for smaller lots. But that would mean that the overlay would have to be requested by the property owner, and the minimum acreage requirement there is 25 acres. So, but an individual lot right now for FR1, which is what Mr. Clark is asking for, so FR1, the minimum lot size is 2 there. And that was your question.
Yes.
Back to Ms. Manson, she had indicated she wanted to make a motion.
Did you close the
You
public?
working on it?
Did you close the public?
I haven't closed it yet, but I'm just asking.
Yeah, I'll come up with something.
All right, is there any additional question or comment from the public? All right, seeing none, then we'll close the public portion. Come back to the zoning commission for further discussion and or recommendation.
Mr. Chair, in as much as the application HPZ 2306 lacks several portions of the application that is required, including matching maps and descriptive text and net acreage calculation. I move that the Harlem Township Zoning Commission recommend to the Harlem Township Board of Trustees that said application be denied.
All right. We have a motion by Ms. Manson. Is there a second? And it's seconded by Ms. Lewis. All right, now we'll have the opportunity for discussion on the motion.
This does not mean you could not resubmit an application. Correct?
It would move forward to the trustees.
Right.
And the trustees would hold, potentially schedule their hearing. Once we would take action. Right now, you have a motion, there's a motion on the table or on the floor, and we haven't voted on it. So it is for consideration. We have it's a live motion because there's a motion and a second. It's been seconded. Discussion.
I'm not sure I can support.
And the rationale being,
Partly the advice that he got from,
here, let me move this closer because we need to probably get it recorded.
because of the advice that Mr. Clark got from the survey. It was, wrong and inappropriate. Now, there are other defects with the application. So I might be willing to overlook, but I think the fact that the surveyor didn't give you good advice is enough for me to say, will allow you to come back with a corrected application. Otherwise, it'll go to the trustees. And they'll probably do it.
Yeah, I'd like to submit it with the right things. Try to get the right things.
But that's my rationale.
Do I have to submit another application with
If-
$2,000?
With the applicant, if the motion passes, it goes forward, it's our recommendation then. Because the motion is a recommendation for denial. The trustees can't approve it. They can modify it. Or they can agree with whatever, if the motion passes, they would agree to deny it. Which would mean then, yes, at that point, if they deny it, you need to submit a new application. If you take it forward to the trustees, which, once we consider the motion, that it's possible, I'm thinking in terms of, if the recommendation for denial is approved, I'm not supportive of the recommendation for denial. That's my position. And basically I have the same kind of rationale as Tom. I think that there needs to be, I understand that you signed this document. But this is the acknowledgement that you signed, that you, with these things being error. That would mean that we would just send it back to him, and it wouldn't go forward. But you're making a recommendation to move forward, it needs to be done. And they could then take action at that point. I don't know whether they would consider it or not, but if you brought in the appropriate documentation, we could potentially act on the basis of new information that you were provided at the time of that meeting.
Can I bring a survey to the trustee meeting?
Let me go back now. Let's deal with the motion rather than having a discussion with you. I was just trying to explain the current situation. Brittany, do you have any comments to speak in favor of or against the motion?
I didn't have a copy of this, so I have not reviewed it prior to meeting. That's here. So So I'm probably gonna have to be a tiebreaker and I don't know if
Okay. Well, you can abstain.
I can.
The choices is, with regard to the motion, aye, nay, or. Okay. With that said, any other comments from the members of the commission? All right, then with that, I'll call for a vote on the motion and. Joni, let's be sure that it gets recorded. Could you restate your motion, please?
I move that the Harlem Township Zoning Commission recommend to the Harlem Township Board of Trustees that application HTZC 2306 be denied on the basis of discrepancies and omissions.
And those discrepancies and omissions you did enumerate.
Discrepancies between the maps and legal description and omission of the net acreage calculation.
Okay. That is the motion and it was seconded. Now I'll call for a vote. This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Need,
Nay.
Ms. Lewis. Ms. Operate, okay. Abstain. Ms. Manson
Aye.
and Mike Capel, nay. So it's a two-toe,
Yes, it
which,
fails.
I beg your pardon?
It fails.
The motion fails. So, if we have a motion to approve, the same vote will move the thing forward. We'll move it forward.
So you're making a motion to approve it rather than delay
If
it?
the motion failed, it can go forward for the trustees to consider. But there was a recommendation for, so it's not approved as a denial, but it's not approved as a recommendation for them to approve either. Motion fails, but it can go forward.
Or do we just, table it?
Yes, we do have that option. That we can recess the hearing and schedule it and have him come back to us.
I would make a motion to recess this hearing to date time soon. And with the expectations part will.
If we
And Tom
recess,
said there may be more, so be careful to read the procedure.
we could recess it to, are you thinking in terms of September the 5th then, Tom?
And we have to,
Yeah, that's our
Well,
regular meeting.
That's our next regular meeting.
on September the 5th, we may have another hearing on. We don't finish. So.
That's correct. That could be the case.
Hypothetically, if the errors are fixed here, this should be fairly straightforward.
This one,
Yeah. If the errors are fixed,
yeah,
to do on the fifth alongside the other.
it,
I would
it
schedule.
would
this
seem to be quick.
First,
Yes.
And right now, we can set that
yeah,
time.
Yeah.
So it would be the first one. All right, so Tom, we would set it for September the 5th at 7:45. That's the recess of this hearing. And that was a motion, so I need a second.
Second.
Moved by Tom, seconded by Joni, to recess this hearing to September 5 at 7:45 PM. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no? Four, yay, aye, and one nay. Okay,
Be aware that September 5th, Tuesday, Monday's Labor Day. So we'll normally meet on Tuesday. That gives you about a month to. If your surveyor can't get it done in time, it's tough.
So we can get corrected copies.
We should.
well, we'll have to have corrected copies. Yeah. Since we're recessing it to that date and time, it would be preferable for us to have the documents prior to the hearing. So that would mean getting them to us, a few days for the weekend before. So if you could get the new documents that you're going to be submitting in support of the current application, you don't have to resubmit the application. Just address those issues that were identified and get that to the zoning inspector on or before look at the end of August. Say, sorry. How about on or before August 30th?
If you could get them to the office so that we can get paper handouts on the August 28th meeting, that would be best, I would say, but.
And go in the. 6 copies.
13, I would say, if I'm correct.
Yeah. Yeah, you need the same number of copies that we submitted with the original. The corrected documents should be in the 13 copies so that every packet can be updated with the updated and revised documents, okay? All right. All right, with that in mind then, consider this hearing recessed to September 5 at 7:45 PM. Thank you, Mr. Clark.
And Virginia did have a good point, if they are, if it certainly is available by the 28th, when we will have a different hearing. That would be.
That would be back in finance.
Can we convince our new zoning secretary assistant for Taylor to drive them around like Sherry did?
The new
Well-
secretary or
Yeah,
administrative
because I'm sure
assistant
that-
for zoning will be
Issues
on
that
board
weekend.
by then, yes, but it would be very helpful if they were available on the 28th. I
Yeah.
didn't want
In
to.
hard copy.
Yes.
In hard copy.
And hard copy form. Well, that's the requirement that he has to turn them in.
I got some young little brother and you got- Hey. Maybe.
Okay, Mr. Clark, I hope that hasn't confused you. You're clear on what the expectation is. The 28th is not, I didn't set that as a deadline, but if you can meet it, that would just be helpful. We're saying we'll give you until the 30th. All right, thank you. All right, with the hearing recessed, I'd like to call our regular commission meeting out of recess, and that means I call the roll again. Mr. Need,
Still here.
Ms. Lewis?
Here.
Ms. Hoprick?
Here.
Ms. Manson?
Here.
And Mr. Kaplan here, so we're all still here. And we are now back in session in our regular meeting. Okay. And going down our agenda.
Since we had a latecomer, can we receive any more new applications right now?
Yeah, we'll go back and see. Yes. All right. Is there anyone else that had an application they wanted to bring forward tonight?
I do,
You have an application to submit?
yes, I do.
All right. And did you bring the checks?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
I got the original, my 13 copies right here.
all right, well then bring your copies forward.
Mike right there in black shirt.
And you can give the checks there to Mr. Cannon. There you got two checks there, Mr. Cannon, one for 1,200.
One for 943 for the acres, and one for 1,200.
And is the acreage check in the correct amount?
How many acres is it?
$5.717. All right, you keep the original, Mike, and bring a copy for each of us.
Good check.
You'll notice on the current zoning, they are one and proposed district has been removed and it's been whited out. Finally, I come up with what actually fits my description of the business. And it is high industrial. Same, district and no township right now, building that on Maxtown Road. And we're kind of, that's the game.
Yeah, I'm sorry, sir, I missed your name. Did you state it?
TYSINGER. Should be right there on the app.
It just got CJT Development.
No, down at the bottom.
And yeah, I can't read it.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
Is it Tyson? Did you say? All right. Well, we won't be discussing the application tonight, but I do want to make sure that you are aware that, and you heard the discussion on the previous application, and that there were things that were not present in that application that would have been the basis for a denial. And I wanted to make sure that you were aware that you would face the same expectations in terms of the requirements, and all the things that are required for the application need to be present in the application. Otherwise, it could be returned to you without consideration, and you wouldn't lose any fees. If it's moved forward to the trustees as a denial, then the fee would indeed be lost, the application fee. I beg your pardon?
Pretty sure I got everything. on the checklist. I believe the checklist Mike has, I checked everything.
Well, that, I'm just pointing that out to you, sir. All right. Well then, if we receive the application, we would set a hearing date for this one. I don't think that we can set it for the same date and time. Since we've already going to have two on the 5th, it would have to be at a later, but within, if we receive it tonight, it would have to be within 20 to 40 days.
Sorry.
This one here, he's decided to go. On this.
Like, do you want to put a number on this?
Yes, we will. This would be HTCC 2308. And the date would be
Today is the 7th of August.
the 7th, yeah. So we, on each of the application, the date needs to be updated.
Well, that was the original date of that particular meeting.
That, yeah, I understand. So we'll just update the document that,
This is when we receive it.
it doesn't necessarily have to be, we're receiving it today.
Okay, I just, you know what, that was the great. Maybe you did it, or you turned
Either way, it's really,
I think you can change that. On the copy.
yeah, we can just change the date. And we know that when we're receiving it, we did not receive it on July the 3rd. But that may have been when you originally filled it out.
That is correct.
Yeah, today is the 7th. That's the date it will be received.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. And as we were discussing advertising, you indicated that you had looked at the checklist that was online and you're confident that you met all the requirements.
I believe so. I have met with Mike several times to make sure where I come to you guys that I had everything. I had him review it. We went over, I think, multiple phone calls. He has been more than helpful in this. So I believe I have everything that I passed.
So you are applying for, want the zoning change to be industrial district, straight industrial district, correct?
Yes,
Okay, just want to make sure.
yes.
Is that, it is on the application that way, but you had several things crossed out, so I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page here.
Yes.
All right, so we still have to set the date for the hearing and the time.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't think that we could set it on the 5th. But I'm open for comments and recommendations, suggestions from the zoning commission.
Are we allowed to do it during our workshop meeting?
Sure, we just have to adjust the time for the workshop, I guess.
I would say do it the following workshop meeting then, because otherwise we're all waiting. till
So you're
October.
talking about,
September 11th.
yeah, that's what I was gonna look at. Is that within 40 days?
I don't think you'd mind if you had one. where you didn't have to do it.
Yeah, I feel like if we're gonna have this hearing, I don't know if we're gonna have enough time to devote to staff. Based on the fact that the last application we went through took us to almost 9 o'clock. Well, 8:30.
Yeah, it may take an hour.
Yeah,
So if we were going to schedule it on the date with Scott, then I would move Scott's meeting back, or we could cancel him for September.
That would be one.
So you're saying it would be September 11th.
Well, we haven't set the date yet, but that's the date we're considering.
Okay, that's
It has to be within 20 to 40 days of when we receive this.
okay.
I didn't bring a paper calendar, so it's hard for me to count the
There's
days.
35 days.
I'll just tell you where I'm coming from. I'm in just the first step. I do have some friends, I've had some
35.
block plans redone, but for
Okay,
this project to hit the ground this year is probably not. Right.
Well, then at that rate, do we push it to October?
No, it has to be scheduled.
40 days.
No, I'm just saying.
We can't receive it tonight, but yes, we could push it to October, just that we couldn't receive it tonight. Can't set the date, in other words.
Well, then let's stick to the 11th.
September 11th.
I'm not the only one here though, so.
I'm just saying that I'm a ways away. I'm not gonna take any more steps, to spend more money, so I get. That's all.
September the 11th. Though that date does work for you, sir?
Believe so.
Okay. Because we definitely need to have you present.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah. Would be the same time, 7:30?
The meeting will start at 7:30. The hearing time will be set momentarily.
7:35.
All right. What are you, I'm sorry.
7:45, so we get whatever we're going to be doing. Just housekeeping on.
Minutes.
All right, we'll set the hearing time for 7:45. On September the 11th. Okay,
Like, we're all set on this one.
I'm sorry, Tom didn't hear you.
We're all set on.
We're setting the hearing date for 9/11 at 7:45. And insofar as that being the scheduled workshop time, we'll discuss that, decide how we want to handle that part. But if we're settled in on the date and time, and I didn't hear anyone objecting to that. So that's when the hearing is set.
Okay,
And that's all you need for tonight.
okay.
And we'll see you back here on November the 11th, I'm sorry, September the 11th at 7:45.
One quick thing, haven't you in the past checked that we had the acknowledgement form when we received the application?
There's no acknowledgement.
The acknowledgement form isn't a requirement, but yes, the last time we had one turned in, I've got one.
Didn't we make it a requirement?
Here, no, I've got one. We'll get him to sign it. I reviewed that with him verbally, but what she's referring to is this is a form that you may want to read it or to sign it.
No.
Yeah. So, yay or nay. Well, you know, there's all kinds of businesses already on Fancher Road. So I think about this would probably be different than anybody else. All right, this is. Thank you. Yes, sir. I'll do some. Anything else? And I'll let you guys do your thing.
So that's all we need for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
No, I can't ever get there when.
And you didn't have your key card until today.
So can I get into the office with that key card now?
No,
No.
You can get into the back of.
you can get into the building, but not
But I
into
can't
the
get into
office.
the
to get
office.
stuff.
Since they just call, say, hey, Mike, I'm gonna stop by, I can leave it. The meeting room, it's on the Berlin Township website.
Oh.
749652661 extension to the.
You were also in that group text today, and
Oh, you.
I think so, weren't you? About it being here?
Yeah, you can, if you need something out of there,
I don't want.
it's not a problem, just sit it right in that office.
Are you also the 506-4664? So,
He doesn't keep that.
It's not for any other
I won't-
reason besides.
I won't bug you.
Wait, you said you're the 74096.
61 extension to this office.
Okay.
Here today.
He keeps farmers house.
I would call you at 6:30, I guess. No farmer's gonna better leave.
661.
You may not get an answer though. Okay, let's see. All right, moving on our agenda. No more applications to receive. Reports. Mike, you want to give us a report tonight or have one? Okay. I wanted to report to you and I saw it this afternoon. I got this email. I did forward it to you. But we have received a indication from Corey Go, our attorney with the prosecutor's office, that the Coppola Witter litigation has been dismissed. And the court granted the township and the zoning commission's motion to dismiss. So that case is now terminated. The reason that the court terminated the case is because they considered the issue to be moot, which is what we basically said is going to probably the most likely outcome in this case. We happen to be right. If you remember what it was at their issue, where they tried to say that the zoning commission and the trustees did not have the authority to rezone that property because it did not meet the minimum acreage requirements minimum frontage requirement for a 5-acre lot. And that was, they took it forward on that basis. The court, you can see the ruling because I forwarded the whole thing too. But basically, the bottom line was they made the decision because the issue was moot. They had the opportunity to put a referendum forward, and they didn't do that. So that time period expired, 30-day time period expired, and they didn't file their lawsuit until January. And their time period expired back in September, so there was no basis for the lawsuit.
So does the rezoning just go forward
The
now?
group zoning goes forward, yeah. It was approved. Yeah, actually, I don't know whether they had done anything with the property or not, but at this point,
They probably
it's
weren't.
there's no longer any litigation pending.
Was it AR1 to FR1?
That's what it was, yeah.
So if anything, we made it closer to conforming, if not conforming, but so.
Yeah, we actually made it conforming
Yeah.
by doing
Rezone.
the rezoning.
But their thought was that we shouldn't have done any zoning change because it was non-conforming.
That is, as a 5-acre lot, it would still be non-conforming. And the reason it would be non-conforming is because it wouldn't meet the frontage. Because it's, I forget what the frontage on it was, but it was like 245 feet or something. There's enough for it to meet the requirements for 175 feet and a 60-foot flag. But there's not enough frontage for it to meet 275 foot, which would have also meant it would have been conforming for 5 acres.
Yeah.
So, it was, but our position basically was, I mean, we didn't approve it for that reason, but it does, we were not creating a non-conforming
Yeah.
lot by approving it.
Right.
But they moved, they didn't, it goes back, I think, to the attorney there, I think, the mistake. They
Yeah.
didn't advise them about the petition. Or if they advised him about it, they advised him too late about it. Anyway, that case is supposedly terminated now. That's what, according to Corey Go, in his email here, he says the case will be terminated. So there will be an appeal. So I just want to make sure that everyone was aware of that, because you may not have seen that email. I sent it late today sometime before the meeting. Anything to report, Jay? No? Tom, anything more to report from strategic planning?
Just real quick, you know that the 2 articles on the mixed use overlay district have been approved, passed through the referendum period, part of the zoning referendum now. The 2 overlay districts on the clustered residential conservation district have also been approved. Those are now part of the zoning resolution. And we have the County Line Road overlay district to work on. Strategic planning is deciding at this point whether to work on the next overlay district or to fill out some of the economic requirements of existing overlay districts. So I frankly don't know, once we get to 35, there may be a gap in terms of next overlay.
Well, the next overlay district that I'm aware of that would be considered would be the one for Center Village. Right?
It might be Center Village, it might be the Northwest Quadrant.
Oh, there's another one you're looking at up there.
We're just talking in general about, do we need one that barrier against annexation from building.
The only one I've been asked about is Somerville.
Yeah.
Just so we didn't have it.
I don't have any report other than a couple of us, and you're all welcome to come, are going to go down to Lancaster and take a tour of the Keller Farm, the Keller Market House, which is kind of the model for what the full-time farm would be in the township. Which is big. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else, commission members, have anything that you'd like to report or ask about?
I
Yes.
have I've noticed that the application over today GMT20230807. And then also now the industrial one, are they were missing the numbering on the map to match it with the people, so.
Is that what
around-
we're seeing into?
Yeah, and also a very clear, outline of the net acre, which are specified very clearly in the checklist. So I'm puzzled why these are missing, but I guess my ask would be to Mike, if when somebody comes to you, could you maybe try and draw their attention to those things? Because it seems like those two are like, this.
Yeah, when they usually bring those applications in, they sit down across from me, we go over the checklist. Yes, we have that, yes, we have that, yes, we have that. I guess, well,
How is it worded?
The checklist
So
says,
you would be a good example.
Yeah.
You know, when you read it, what did it mean?
an 11 by 17 map of the property showing all contiguous, adjoining, adjacent, and across from properties, parentheses, these properties should be numbered and match the list on the application. And then it continues, if applicant owns any of the neighboring properties, don't do those.
I don't think that's solid.
but it also says on there something about going to the map room. Doesn't say something about that. You get a map.
Maps obtained from the county map room must be accompanied by a receipt dated no more than 30 days prior to the date of the application.
Okay, do they need that?
Not if they've done the auditors,
I
but if
think-
you don't,
I think we need to make it clear, because the map that you were talking about, it wasn't numbered, came from the map. Whereas when they had that, because if you set it up like they
So should we
should,
change that to
pull the
if
buffer
any
off there.
maps are obtained
I
from the
think
map?
this needs to be a little more in-depth as what exactly it does.
So this goes in conjunction with the checklist. Use this checklist along, with the procedural guidelines. Use this checklist along with the Harlem Township Zoning Commission procedural guidelines. Because what happened is the procedural guidelines do go very in-depth, and we kept having people gloss over things because the procedural guidelines are up
Very
full, small print, front, back, like it's a lot.
Lots of detail.
And so.
Is
we
it
took-
easy to read for
we
these guys?
took the
Because a lot
app-
of them don't understand.
That's why we have tried to distill this into a more user-friendly version. Now, I'm not saying we hit the nail on the head the first time, it seems like you're right, we are still having some consistent issues. But, down at the bottom, it also says, common errors that will result in rejection at the hearing include, but are not limited to, omission of the net acreage calculation, that's right there. Omission of contiguous, adjoining, adjacent, and across from properties. Discrepancies between maps and their descriptive text, I understand wanting to make it user-friendly, which is why I proposed the checklist, and I think it does help with the procedural guidelines, but at the end of the day, this is not a full-time office, this is not a full-time position for any of us, none of us have the time to go through with every applicant and say, you need this. So I'm not saying we don't need some tweaking,
and by the way, we're not allowed to do that because we used to do that
Yes.
with the review team.
yeah, only Mike is allowed to sit down with the
Right.
applicants and go through things. See, we are not allowed to do that.
At one time in the past, what they're referring to is there was a review team. Which consisted of 2 members of the zoning commission. And the zoning inspector, who was part-time,
Cause
sitting down with the applicant and reviewing the application before they submitted it. And if they went through that process and submitted it, and there was something found to be missing, the zoning commission would recess the hearing and reschedule it to a date and time certain, which is what we did tonight. Technically speaking,
We should have.
her motion that she made, Tom and I, we're having, my main issue comes today because we raised that fee to the level that we had,
so
that I feel like I tend to want to be a little more, provide the opportunity. So for the person to make the corrections.
I know that I time and time again have come off as the heartless stickler. I get that. Which is the other reason that I sort of spearheaded the checklist, because I thought, we, especially with the growth in the township, we cannot afford as a volunteer position to be recessing if we don't have the time in our schedules. And so I wanted to make sure that it was user friendly because a lot of the applications come from residents. They're not big outside companies that are coming in to do a big development. So we've tried to do that. Again, not to say that it couldn't use some revisiting, but I think the procedural guidelines themselves also need some revisiting. And we have talked about that, but we're doing all these overlay districts, you know, they're on the list. But the list is crazy long already.
Yes, it is.
I mean, I'd be open to updating the checklist. Recommendation on how to update it, but me, I think it is pretty clear. I mean, I was involved in creating the checklist. I knew nothing about zoning, and I felt like it. But I mean, there's still opportunity. Somebody just needs to tell us what does it need to be different, because people keep missing the mark.
Well,
And I don't know why.
back before Mike was hired, the decision was that we wouldn't ask the zoning inspector to do that. But today, I think we basically are saying, Mike, we are asking you to do that.
Well, that was also a discrepancy.
Just in
between-
terms of reviewing, not giving them feedback as to whether or not it's going to be approved or not, but just checking to see if the items that are required on the checklist, if they have been met.
Yeah, well, because you are full-time, right? And Matt was part-time, so that's, I think, one of the reasons.
And that
this
was,
is now an option.
I don't know how many hours. I think I heard numbers 10 hours per week. And then I heard maybe it was 15 hours per week. But it was far
Yeah.
from being full-time.
Full-time.
I mean, and I don't know if it's an option, like those places, applications, they have what we need, they're very clear, that, you know, we just show them an example, like, this is this one. I don't know if that's allowed or not.
And I will say, with Joe Place, we had a few, and this is one of the reasons that I was like, you gotta do the checklist, because Joe came in with a few that weren't complete. And I was like, this is your job, buddy, like, this is what you do for a living, you need these to be correct, completed, like, that's gotta be there. And since then, they've been flawless.
I don't know.
Well, I think we attend, or Virginia identified two areas where it's not obvious. One is in numbering the map so that it matches the list of property owners. You got a list of property owners 1 through 9, you gotta put 1 through 9 on that. And the other one is the net acreage calculation. Just nobody takes it seriously.
I also brought up when we put the net acreage on there, I said, how are residents supposed to find this? Where are they supposed to go? Because if the net acreage excludes right of ways, gas lines, power lines, you gotta notify different people to figure out what your easements are, and we don't give them those 5 people, and we don't tell them those are the 5 people we need to talk to. So I do think
We
we
need a
can,
good survey.
They're almost always putting gas and water in
And
the roads.
yeah.
right away.
Utilities. But
And then
somebody
the
has to know you
surveyor
look for it.
will be able
A
to find
surveyor.
those.
and so is that
But the
basically
typical
what we're
home-
asking for every applicant to have a survey that has been completed within the last year? Is that what it boils down to?
Somebody's got it. Yeah, if somebody's got an older survey that excludes all that stuff, I'm fine with that.
But I don't know that we can specify that.
And what we discovered tonight, unfortunately, with Mr. Clark's, is that, you know, it was an old survey. We've accepted old surveys in the past, but this time there was a big discrepancy in terms of the acreage. And no one has an explanation as to why that happened.
So I really don't know how much on average does a survey run.
Probably at least a couple $1,000.
So that's the thing, if we're saying to every applicant, you need to come with a survey that's been completed within the first year, that's another cost. Now, we're not seeing that, we're not administering that at all.
I don't think we need to specify that it has to be the last year, but it does have to be accurate. And if it's not accurate, I don't care if it was last week.
But in Mr. Clark's case, you know that it's not accurate.
Jody's got I think, a good point that I agree with. It's not how old it is, it's the accuracy of the survey.
Yeah, but if Mr. Clark goes to his survey and he's like, well, I've lived here since I got this survey, then why wouldn't it be accurate? then that puts him in a difficult situation. So like I said, I know I come off as the heartless stickler, but we do have some things like this that I do feel for that, but I also, if I'm the one who spearheaded this checklist and said, nope, it's just gotta be done the first time, like I see that this is a human being sitting here who doesn't wanna do that again, like it hurts to say, nope, you're out. But on the other hand, you can't do all these recesses, it's not feasible with the number of hours that we work.
May I-
Oh, it's open to the public.
Okay, okay. The problem was that we didn't have a current legal description. So what may have happened, because if the survey company for mortgage purposes just went and ran off the old survey, they didn't really come out on the property, and then they're going with an old legal description. The problem is, we need a more current legal description, and you usually get that when you get an actual on-the-job survey with a current legal description. Then they're gonna name all the easements, right-of-ways, encroachments. You'd be surprised how many encroachments I've seen when somebody has a 30-year-old survey, and then they go, this is from, a private business. Then they go, and they get a current survey to do something to the house, and the guy's over the line, or he's over the line.
Yeah.
So current surveys aren't necessarily bad. And also, if you're going to do something with the bank, they're gonna want a current survey in it. That's my feeling. But it's not just the survey, it's the legal description that's with it.
No.
They got a match.
And they got a match.
I also, reflect and feel bad in Mr. Clark's case because his surveyor said, no, do this first. That seems like poor advice from a surveyor. And so I don't,
I think the surveyor was simply looking at it from the perspective of, he was expecting to get a survey that would divide the property up into two different lots,
not a survey of the whole.
not a survey of the whole thing. And what you had suggested to him, which I think is a good idea, get the survey of the full existing current parcel,
And have a
but
pencil.
then have them also at the same time potentially provide you with information about how the lot could be split. But we don't even need to see that.
Well, if they do that, and it's approved, then you have to survey it again.
No,
For the,
Why you got boots on the ground, it's making you go down. It's gonna be cheaper.
Because once you get the FR1 zoning, you do not come back to us to get the lot split.
you
That
go to
is
regional planning.
to regional planning. And so if you have that survey from this year to take to regional planning, then you should be fine. You don't come back here.
Yeah.
You don't even have to tell us you're splitting a lot.
But yeah, when you got boots on the ground, take care of it.
Yeah, and when they're there, I think that's what you were saying, Jim, because they're there on the property, it should be less expensive to get them both done, so to speak, at the same time than it would be to have to do one and then come back and do a second.
And his surveyor will be used to going up and getting it stamped at the map room. Surveyor will do that, and with that stamp, he can go to regional planning.
And the surveyor should also be used to getting easements, right of ways, things like
Right,
that.
all that stuff that we're having a problem with tonight, or any board would be having a problem with, is because we're not getting current information.
So that brings me back to, do we require a survey within the last year, 5 years, whatever, to help alleviate some of this? Especially with so many new things coming into the township. I think
Well, that's something that we could indeed, recommend,
or at least
but I
put
think
the
that the
checklist.
trustees would have to indeed be amenable to that and agree to that.
So even if we don't go so far as to say we need a new survey, could we add in the checklist? Oftentimes, older surveys have inaccuracies that you may not be aware of. if you're concerned that you're close to a minimum or a maximum, whatever, you may want to get a new survey.
Yes. Well, the other thing that I would like for us to consider, and we mentioned this already in a previous meeting, and we said we would do it before January, when we adopted procedures again, that we would in fact update this.
So
This is already now August, so we only have 4 months left. to get
for
it
our
done.
September 11th meeting, could I propose that if we're going to say to Scott, hey, we've got this hearing, let's not have you come to meet with us this week, that we focus on procedural guidelines and checklist instead.
That sounds like a reasonable thing to me, and we just would have Scott skip a month and come back in October.
Yeah. Yeah, I can try to go through and look at the checklist and the procedural guidelines again and, you know, highlight things that I think need to be updated, whatever and all.
I think so. I think I'd like to plan to do that, and then well, Scott's coming for this meeting this month. We'll inform him that we're not going to schedule a meeting in September, it'll be in October. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Now let's do our minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
sorry about that, but since you're with this discussion that you're having now, I'd just like to throw my 2 cents. First of all, I agree with Virginia that you can't recess every meeting because you're going to stack up and you're going to get more and more rezonings, and you're going to be investing way too many hours, in my opinion. The second thing is, you know, you're looking at people now that are splitting a lot, 5 acres, let's say, and more often than not, they're selling that second lot. And they're getting anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000. Surely they can hire someone in the real estate business so that their application is correct. And that's just my thought. I mean, if I'm going, if I've got to go to court, I'm not going to represent myself. And they're coming in here and representing hundreds of thousands of dollars at times, and they're representing themselves. And you know, I don't think they've got that expertise. So that's just my thoughts.
All right, thank you.
I agree with Bob on both of those.
And I would even add to that, in this case, we know the intention is to split the lot. The survey is gonna have to be done. Have it done before you bring it to us, then before you bring it to the region.
And if your surveyor asks, tell them if they have another Harlem Township resident go there first. Another Harlem Township resident, that we want the survey first.
And Karen's done a lot of surveys in this township. She should.
Yeah, that's why I was referring.
Okay,
All right, looking at the minutes, let's start with July 3rd.
I had one additional thing on page 3. About halfway down, Holly is proposing a schedule that would have the commission meet, that big paragraph. It says Tuesday, September 6th, and then in the following sentence, if we do that, the trustees can meet on Wednesday, the 6th. We have the 6th and the 6th. One's a Tuesday, one's a Wednesday, so I think we mean Tuesday, the 5th.
Oh, yeah. That would be September the 5th.
Yes,
Yeah,
and then
that's
the
a
trustees
correction,
can
yeah.
meet on Wednesday, the 6th.
Okay,
so it's like 5 or 6 lines down in that paragraph.
it's a,
Yeah.
yeah. It's the big paragraph on the
Yeah.
page. Good catch.
Jennifer Neely,
That was all I got.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the regular monthly meeting minutes of July 3rd as corrected.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Ms. Manson, seconded by Ms. Lewis. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, motion carries. These are approved as corrected. Next one is the 10th.
Mike, page.
I'm sorry, which page, Tom?
The fourth page on 2 lines above, old business.
Wait a
On
minute,
page-
going back to the,
What,
we already approved. He's going back.
To the ones we just approved.
we already approved them.
Just tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
So this is on Miss Lewis, 2 lines above old business. I make a motion that we approve J.
You know, go.
Is it okay? We'll leave it. 2 lines above old business.
I think that was the June 5th or June 12th minutes. That should have
No,
been.
that would make sense. Now didn't work out.
I still haven't found where it is. Oh, right here.
Where-
We will now do the workshop minutes of June 12th.
Yeah, go down 2 more lines here.
I make a motion.
I
that
make
we
a motion that we approve. Oh. It was incomplete.
June 12th.
June 12th minutes.
Yes, we can approve it.
And with the motion that we.
Reapprove.
I will re-second that.
All right,
I will re-eye that. All right.
the minutes for July the 3rd have now been corrected, and the motion is being made by Ms. Vanson again.
Sure.
Seconded by Ms. Lewis. Further discussion? Okay, we've got them all this time.
Not looking at it.
All the corrections that we need to make. All right, then all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, the motion is approved. The minutes for July 3rd are approved as corrected. Glad we caught it there. July the 10th now.
Yep.
Any corrections on these?
Technically, we all sent Timber the corrections already, so these are.
Yeah, well, the corrections that I had, yeah, they've been addressed.
Chair, I make a motion that we approve the July 10th workshop meeting minutes as corrected.
Second.
And Virginia seconded again, okay. Okay.
Take a vote.
We better have a vote, yeah. Any further discussion? Checking to make sure before I call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? All right, the July 10th meeting minutes are approved as corrected. And July 17 now.
Perkins or Hershey? So these I did have one thing on the back page. About halfway down. Mr. Jason Fetter addressed the commission with questions and concerns. His was not included or submitted to the commission, so I was just going to add that it was mainly in regards to flooding. So I took notes on the public comments, so I want that noted somewhere.
With questions and concerns regarding flooding,
Yeah,
we just add that at the end. Will that do it?
yeah.
Thank you for taking this note.
So the one above that, the Willis statement, will that be included anywhere? 'Cause it says that it was handed to the commission. I also took notes on that he handed us that big letter.
Don't know what it was about.
Mainly in regards to flooding, saying that he wanted to be here for the rural feel, he wasn't notified.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, his question, again, you're right, that's what he primarily was focused on.
But are those, it says that,
Yeah, I
handed a
would,
copy of this statement to the commission. Is that copy of the statement going somewhere with these minutes?
It should be attached.
it should be referenced here, but it's going to be included, so it's not.
Can we get it in?
And do we know if they still exist?
They were, yeah, they were
trans.
transmitted
he
to the zoning office.
Okay.
Let's see, can we add to that statement? Where is that statement?
Right above the one that I,
No, I had it, now I've lost it. Here it is. Handed a copy of his statement to the commission, which will be included with the minutes. Okay. So that's another correction. Anything else?
4 lines up at the bottom.
1, 2, 3, 4. Roll call? Roll
I'm making all the.
call. Oh,
I'm not.
I'm good.
yeah, that was, you said that, Tom. My car voice recognition always mispronounces you.
When I call my parents on my car, I have to say rash instead of rash.
If I say me, it won't recognize. I have to say not for it to recognize Tom's name. All right,
So do I have to?
just an
do I have to talk
interesting
to- Do I
observation.
have to talk to Google now?
That's artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Thanks.
we will correct your name though.
Still pronounced the same.
Is there a motion?
So do I have to make a motion with contingencies because of this addition, or can I just say it's corrected?
Well, that's corrected because we're adding, which will be included with the minutes.
Is that enough to make sure that it gets?
Yeah. If we can
Okay.
send her a note.
Then I make a motion that we approve the hearing minutes for HT 2304 from July 17th as corrected.
Second. Let Tom second.
Tom, okay.
I see there's a Garrett Tysinger. Wasn't Tysinger the guy who just turned in?
Yeah, this is his son.
All right, the second, the reconvening of the hearings is July 17th. Also.
The meeting the hearing minutes from HTZC 2305
Is there
as submitted.
a second?
I will second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by aye. Aye, opposed nay. These minutes are approved. I didn't see any corrections. As submitted. Okay. Thank you. Got those. I didn't have any new business, but we did discuss some new business that we're going to put on the agenda
Yes.
in the future.
Can I?
Tom, go ahead.
Whether old business, whatever, but Article 35. So we've taken it in for hearing. It's a public document. On our document. Could we ask Kendra to post it to the township website as it was approved by strategic planning?
So the public
Well,
can
that-
review it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Don't we do
The
that with-
posting typically says that these minutes are available, or I mean, this would be available for review. And that would mean they could come into the township office and review it. That's the way it's been in the past, but potentially if there's a way to put it up on the website with a link that they could access it, that's a possibility.
Didn't you do that?
You
with
can
somebody
ask her
else?
to do that. Otherwise, the notice will just say, you know, yes, it is available to the public, and the notice will say that.
So I would think if it's available to the public, we should make it as easily available as possible. If she, I mean, there's an electronic copy of it. You have an electronic copy of the article as we printed off. So if you could link to that electronic.
It should be, I don't know if it's been done in the past with the other ones or not, but it shouldn't be a difficult thing.
The other thing would be, at this point, do we need to share this with Scott Sanders so that he can start doing his review of it that we'll have by the end of August?
I certainly don't think there's any
Well,
harm in that.
the normal procedure is that anytime we receive an application for anything, it gets sent to Scott Standards within 5 days. That's the expected standard normal procedure. And it's in the checklist that way, Tom.
What do you say?
The Article 35 that we just received. Strategic planning. Copy of that should go.
Transmit copy of application to regional planning within 5 days.
Okay, is that on that checklist that Kendra gave?
Yeah, it's on this application receiving form.
Okay.
Yeah, so Kendra did
Kendra's
it the
made
last
clear.
time, but you know, obviously, the new person doesn't start till starts this Wednesday. So potentially, they would have this. They're going to get this. I'm going to turn this in to Kendra so that she would use it in terms of submitting this document to regional planning. And then the same thing will apply to the application that we received here from Mr. Tyson. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
I
see.
Application 2308. That'll have to go up there too. And I don't know what, it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that. Okay.
I gotta be at polling station about 5:30 tomorrow.
Well, we're wrapping it up. We're wrapping it up.
It's your turn.
Well, I just,
Okay,
So you're gonna ask Scott not to come next week.
Not.
no, he's coming next year. It's September, he's not coming. He'll be here next week. And at that time, basically, the agenda will be that we're going to be discussing the documents that I sent to you on July 28th that Scott had forwarded to me. I printed off copies for myself at home. But,
They might have a lot of red.
well, when the printer, for whatever
Oh,
reason,
okay, you printed
it
black.
didn't print red, it's lighter in mine. Yeah, this, any place that looks light, it's
Okay.
actually red.
Making sure I
so-
got the same.
If anybody needs a hard copy, but you can't print it yourself, and you want one, then let us know and we can make one available to you from the office.
Yeah, I'm gonna, because I think, that's probably 11 by 17, and that looks
Yeah.
like a shrunk, you know.
I think the way he split it up, at least it comes in on my computer as being 8.5 by 11. So you've got the two documents. Whether or not it was 8.5 by 14 originally, I don't know. Doesn't show that way on. But the print is relatively small, but I can read it still. I give this to Diane, she said, I can't read. It's too small.
And is Scott gonna do anything about the R2?
He's supposed to get that. Yes, he said he would, but I haven't received anything
Okay,
yet.
all right, so there's both.
He went on vacation, but he said that he'd be back in time to get the R2 piece done and submitted to us before our meeting.
Okay,
And as soon as I receive it, I will forward it to you. It'll be forwarded first electronically. Okay? And that's the only reason I put that on there. That is what I want to make sure I didn't forget to to bring it up with you. But yes, Tom asked the question, that R2 is on the agenda also. All right. Anything else?
go.
Make a motion, we adjourn at 9:37.
9:37, I have a motion to adjourn. Second,
Second.
thank you, Brittany. Any objections? Any further comment? All signify by saying aye if you're in favor. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Oh, what a meeting. Tell you what. We need to get these.
Yeah,
I'll see you in the morning,
something
right?
needs to happen.
Yo, you working the polls too?
No, you're going to vote. No, I'm.
No, they're gonna go voter. Well, not as early as she has to be there.
Oh, that is.
First name around the line.
And the polls open at 6.
We're at the other location. so
Want
we
to
can-
get a other sheet set one, or I- Hey.
It's-
Much less.
We gotta figure out when the search
You guys
engine
want
makes
that
its way up
number?
there, though. The girls go with me, so it's not.
So we've always just.
I put it out too. I'm working on it.
You can only carry it so
Yeah,
far.
I think that-
They're not allowed to carry it.
We-